Chris Farfoy.
Thank you very much, Mr Chair, for the opportunity to speak to the Land Transport, Road Safety and Other Matters Part 2. Mr Chair, I'd like to refer to Schedule 2 around the zero alcohol provisions. And Mr Chair, I'm at odds to take the tack that I'm about to take because it may raise the hackles of my colleagues on this side of the House and a lot of people out there who are watching tonight, but I'm going to have to agree with something that Tau Henare said in the House today. It's raised the hackles. During a contribution earlier in Part 1, an interjection, funnily enough, during Kelvin Davis's speech, Mr Henare said, if you don't want to die, don't drink and drive. And he's 100% right. But unfortunately, he's part of a government. But of course he's a but. I'm talking about you. Unfortunately, he's part of a government who is supporting this bill without provisions to take serious action to send a signal to the New Zealand public that you should do that. Because the government has failed and the Minister has failed to put in this bill serious provisions around lowering the blood alcohol content level for drivers. And as I said earlier in this speech, Mr Henare made that interjection during what was a personal story for Kelvin Davis. And, you know, I've heard from Michael Woodhouse as well today, someone who I've come to get to know a bit better in respect for his views on the Health Select Committee, who wants evidence-based arguments. I'm not an expert on what exactly the figures and the research is around, but I do have a personal story around this, like Kelvin Davis. My name is Christopher John Farfoy, and just before I was born, John Sione, a very good close family friend, was taken out by a drunk driver just before I was born. And Mr Bridges might think that's funny, you see, as it's not funny at all. He was a very close family member who was taken out. I never got to meet him, but I bear his name. I bear his name. Okay, so 35 years ago, this was a problem. So this House has the opportunity to take serious action on drink driving in this House with this bill. And to my argument to Mr Henare, as he interjects again, is, okay, I don't want a history lesson. I am here, I'm one of the newest members in this House, and I want to make sure we are here in the now and make sure that in the future, people like me can make sure that they can... Yeah, it is actually a sad tale. So, Mr Henare, you are 100% right. And can I just say this with the utmost respect that I can give in this House to Tau Henare, you're 100% right, but I'm disappointed that this bill does not include provisions to seriously tackle the drink driving problem that we have in this House. Now, I've dealt with that cop-out with not making sure we deal with that problem, so let me deal with the driving age and the cutting corners around there. As I said before, Michael Woodhouse has raised some interesting issues around the driving age argument. And, you know, he wants to make sure that we have an evidence-based approach to what we do in this bill. But I see a bit of a contradiction here because with the driving age, the evidence is you're young, we're going to take action against you and make it swift. But around the drink driving provisions, if you're intoxicated and you don't think you can drive, we'll wait a couple of years and figure out, you know, if this is actually going on, and then we'll take action. And I don't think that's right. And Paul Quinn earlier on said, oh, look at the polls. Well, I'll tell you what the polls say. 67% in the TVNZ poll said we should take action to lower the blood alcohol limit. Research New Zealand. One poll from Research New Zealand went from 50% to 63%. And UMR had a 70% rate. Kiwis wanted to make sure that we lowered the blood alcohol level for drivers. Now, going back to the driving age and the impact that it will have, and the impact that it will have on rural communities in particular. Certainly in my electorate, there are areas such as Pakakariki and Paotahanui that have large rural communities, and they are concerned about what this will mean for their young ones and the opportunities that are open to them around social events, around community events, around sporting events. And I think we should take that seriously. It's been an argument that's been floating around for a long time. I know that when I was a journalist, I did a story on this on a mother and daughter in Kaipoi, in Clayton Cosgrove's electorate of Waimakariri, who are concerned that because the daughter would potentially not be able to get a licence to be able to drive the 25 minutes into school. And we've also heard earlier from David Shearer, around the Southern District Council's... Mr Chair.
Michael Woodhouse.
I move that